There comes a moment when the air shifts in your home and you can't explain why. The lights still work, the doors still lock, but something underneath feels disturbed. You walk through your living room and the silence feels heavier. You kneel to pray and your words fall flat, no breakthrough, no flow, just stillness, like something invisible is watching, like something has taken up residence that was never invited. This is no accident. This is no mood swing. Something has shifted in the unseen, and you're not imagining it, because the spirit realm is not silent. It's strategic. And while you were distracted, something may have entered through the ordinary. A gift, a crack in your wall, an argument that opened more than just wounds. Now your home is not just a home. It's a battlefield. And July 25th, July 25 is not just another date on the calendar. It is a window, a portal of consequence, a day marked for either visitation or violation. Pope Leo XIV, long hidden beneath the veils of modern religion, left a chilling warning, one passed over by scholars, but whispered among the remnants. When the tide turns, place salt where the shadows gather, and the blessings of heaven will anchor your house. Not a superstition, not folklore, a key, one you've forgotten, or maybe never knew. Salt, not for taste, but for territory. Not for food, but for fortress. Because what sits in your home right now is not just furniture. There are things that sleep in your corners. There are things that drink your peace. There are things that feel entitled to your threshold because no one told them to leave. And some of you've been praying for prosperity. But prosperity doesn't enter what hasn't been secured. You don't receive what you won't protect. So here is the truth no one dared to say aloud. Some of your delay isn't from God. It's from access you've given to things that mock Him. And now, July 25th stands before you. A date, a warning, a choice. If your spirit is stirred right now, if you feel something old and holy waking up inside of you, then ask yourself this. Why are you still watching in silence, but not subscribing to the sound of your own awakening? Subscribe now. Or enter the comments and tell the truth. Why are you resisting the very voice that's trying to free your house? You are not too old. You are not too late. You are not too broken, too forgotten, too far removed from purpose. What you've walked through didn't disqualify you. It prepared you. What the world called delay, heaven called consecration. The nights you cried alone, the days you felt invisible, they were building something eternal inside of you. You were never meant to blend in. You were never called to stay comfortable. You were not shaped by fire just to decorate a pew. You are a gatekeeper, a watchman, a spiritual repairer of the breach. Your very presence in your home is a line in the sand. You carry authority not because of your voice, but because of your obedience. You've spent years wondering why the atmosphere around you shifts when you walk into a room. It's not pride, it's not coincidence. It's because you were born to govern the unseen. There are mantles on your life that haven't even been named yet. There are assignments assigned to your yes, not your perfection, and now you stand at the threshold of a sacred decision. This is not about superstition. This is not about a ritual. This salt, it isn't seasoning, it's strategy. This act, it isn't tradition, it's territory. You are not placing salt because you're afraid. You are placing salt because you finally recognize you are the priest of your house, the warrior of your walls, the defender of the air your family breathes. Pope Leo XIV didn't speak of salt to stir curiosity. He spoke it to stir the saints awake, because those who wait for permission will always be delayed. But those who understand their assignment, they move before the shaking starts. You've been marked for this, all the quiet years, all the overlooked moments. They were not wasted. They were warfare training. You're not emerging by accident. You're arriving on schedule. So now the question isn't, am I worthy? The question is, will I move? Because if your spirit is quickening, if something in you knows this is more than just a video, then ask yourself plainly, why haven't you subscribed to the call that's been echoing in your own bones? And if you still won't move, at least be honest enough to say it in the comments. Why are you still sitting on the sidelines when the war is at your door? You've walked through your home 1,000 times. But there are still corners you avoid, rooms that never feel restful, mirrors that reflect more than just your image, gifts that arrived with a smile, but planted something you've never been able to name. You told yourself it was just your imagination, just the weight of a long day, just poor lighting, just bad memories. But in the spirit realm, nothing is just anything. Everything either grants access or guards it. That painting your grandmother gave you, that hand-me-down from someone you barely knew, that statue from a trip you barely remember. Objects carry presence, and presence carries permission. Some things were made to bless, others to bind. And your home, though full of beauty and warmth, may unknowingly host open doors. That mirror near your bed, the one you always glance at but never trust, mirrors in Scripture were tools of reflection and revelation. But when left unguarded, they can become spiritual channels, gateways for things to watch, to linger, to influence. That slow leak under your sink, that crack in the basement wall. Physical things often mirror spiritual truths. The leak you ignore may reflect the spiritual seepage you've tolerated, little compromises that have soaked your foundation over time. You think the enemy barges in loud and proud, but he prefers silence. He enters with the gifts of the polite. He hides behind memories and sentimentality. He cloaks himself in nostalgia and calls it harmless. But the danger is never in what it is. The danger is in what it hosts. What was spoken over that object? Who held it before it entered your space? What intention came attached to the packaging? You see, the home isn't just where you rest. It's where your spirit resets. And when your home is unguarded, everything else suffers. Your prayer life dries out. Your dreams turn vague or violent. Your children act out with no cause. Your finances trickle away like water through clenched fists. And all the while, the enemy laughs because he didn't need to attack you. You gave him a room and left the door cracked open. Some of you feel tension in your homes but don't know why. Certain spots make your skin prickle. You avoid praying in one corner. You feel watched when you're alone. You've tried changing the lighting, redecorating, even repainting the walls. But nothing settles. That's because paint can't cover portals. Candles can't cleanse spiritual residue. Only consecration can. And let me say this clearly, not everything that looks normal is safe. Not every silence is peace. Not every gift is from God. Some are bribes. Some are spiritual traps. Some are covenants, cleverly disguised. When Pope Leo XIV spoke of salt, he wasn't talking about flavor. He was talking about fortification, a visible sign of an invisible line. This house is claimed. This space is guarded. This threshold is sealed. Because unguarded homes don't stay empty. They become resting places for wandering spirits, and those spirits don't knock, they don't ask. They simply enter and linger and feed. You must ask yourself, what has been feeding in your home while you've been sleeping? What has claimed rights over your peace without your permission? The traps are subtle, the consequences are not. If any of this feels too familiar, if your spirit is trembling right now and you can't quite explain why, it's because you already know this isn't just information, it's confirmation. So ask yourself, why are you still watching with wide eyes but closed hands? Subscribe and step into the authority that is already yours. Or if you're still not ready, enter the comments and try to explain away the unexplainable. But remember, some doors close only when the truth is acknowledged. You've spent years thinking you missed your moment, that your best days were behind you, that too much time has passed, too many wrong turns taken, and now all that's left is to survive quietly, unnoticed. But heaven has never measured purpose by youth, speed, or platform. Moses was 80 when the bush burned. Anna was an old widow when her prayers welcomed the Messiah. Caleb was past 70 when he said, "Give me this mountain." They weren't late. They were right on time. Because heaven doesn't rush preparation. You've been hidden, not forgotten. You've been refined, not rejected. You weren't passed over. You were positioned. Because there are assignments that require the scars you carry, the wisdom you've earned, and the silence you've endured. You know what it's like to pray without applause, to forgive when no one says thank you, to carry spiritual weight while smiling through the day. You didn't break, you broke through. And now heaven is calling you to stand, not as a survivor, but as a governor. You don't need another word of affirmation. You need to move in what you already carry. You don't need to prove anything. You need to enforce the territory that's already yours. Salt is not a superstition. Salt is not a symbol. Salt is a summons. It is the enforcement of spiritual boundaries. Where salt is laid in obedience, blessing follows. Where salt is absent, confusion reigns, because the enemy only respects order, and order must be declared. Salt declares, this ground is no longer neutral. This home is under divine jurisdiction. These walls will not echo torment. These floors will not carry fear. This air will not host despair. Pope Leo XIV saw what others ignored. He understood the spiritual science of consecration, that salt was never about seasoning. It was always about sealing. Not seasoning food, sealing fortresses. The ancients didn't just cook with salt, they guarded with it. They placed it in corners, thresholds, and windows. Not because they were afraid, but because they knew spirits respect what is consecrated. Demons bypass what is sealed. You've lived long enough with your home spiritually unarmed. You've prayed for peace while ignoring the open doors. You've asked for prosperity while tolerating infiltration. You've wept over your children while refusing to take authority over what surrounds them. This is not shame. This is summoning. This is your moment. Not just to believe, but to enforce. To say, I may have been passive once, but now I understand. This salt is not decoration, it is defense. This act is not ritual, it is reclamation. Still unsure? Still hesitating at the edge of conviction? Then hear this. You've lived too long under attack to stay spiritually passive. You've tolerated too much confusion to keep calling it coincidence. And if your spirit is waking up now, don't press it back into sleep. Subscribe. Stand with the voice that's been confirming what you've already felt. Or, if you must, explain it away in the comments. Tell us why you're still choosing to walk unarmed while your house is being watched. There comes a moment in every believer's life when you stop apologizing for your discernment. You no longer feel the need to explain why some things don't sit right with your spirit. You no longer soften your no just to keep the peace. You stop trying to sanitize your conviction so others feel comfortable around your fire, because something in you has shifted. You've stopped seeing your sensitivity as weakness and started recognizing it as watchfulness. You've stopped calling it paranoia and started calling it prophetic instinct. You are not being dramatic. You are drawing lines. You are not rejecting people. You are rejecting what rides in with them. This is where salt speaks. Salt is not a charm. It is not folklore. It is a boundary. It is a declaration. Contamination ends here. You don't place it because you're scared. You place it because you've been given governorship. This is your gate. This is your ground. This is your threshold. And thresholds are sacred. The doorway is not just where people enter. It's where spirits pass through. The living room is not just where you entertain. It's where atmospheres form. The bedroom is not just where you sleep. It's where your spirit rests and receives. There is no such thing as a neutral room in the house of someone called to war. Every inch must be claimed. Every space must be named. Every atmosphere must be governed. That guest room, that quiet hallway, that childhood closet you haven't opened in years, if it's in your house, it's in your spiritual jurisdiction. No more compromise. No more polite tolerance of dark artifacts wrapped in nostalgia. No more pretending the shows you play in the background don't stir things in the atmosphere. No more letting bitterness hover in your kitchen, strife settle at the dinner table, or lust creep through screens under the cover of silence. Consecration begins not with others, but with you. You are not called to entertain. You are called to ignite. You are not called to shrink to fit. You are called to expand with holiness. Let your no be sacred. Let your boundaries be bold. Let your separation be seen as obedience, not offense. Some won't understand. Some will call it extreme. Let them, because this is not about their comfort. This is about your covenant. And covenant always costs something. It costs popularity. It costs being understood. It costs being invited. But what it returns: peace that settles, oil that flows, protection that surrounds, glory that dwells. You can't have an upper room experience while protecting ground-level compromises. You can't ask for heaven to invade while refusing to close the doors you know are still open. This is not about legalism. This is about lordship. This is not about fear. It's about faithful stewardship. God gave you authority not to manage darkness, but to evict it. Place the salt not with trembling hands, but with bold hearts. Mark your entryways and declare everything that enters here must bow. Lay it in corners and speak. No more spiritual squatters will live here. Anoint your space not with ritual, but with reverence. This is not superstition. This is sacrifice. This is not ritual. This is reclamation. You are not reacting in fear. You are responding in faith. It takes courage to guard what no one else sees. It takes strength to stand when others say you're overthinking. It takes maturity to cleanse what you once tolerated. But this is the moment. If you're tired of atmosphere theft, if you're weary of tension you can't trace, of oppression that clings like fog, then say it with your feet, your hands, your authority. My home will be holy ground. And if your spirit bears witness, don't hesitate. Subscribe. Join those who are tired of living spiritually unmarked. Still not sure? Then be honest. Comment and tell the truth. Why does your comfort still feel safer than your consecration? There is a difference between a quiet home and a cleansed home. There is a difference between peace that comes from silence and peace that comes from sovereignty. You have the authority to build a sanctuary, not just a house, a haven, not just walls and rooms, but legacy and covering. Because what you consecrate today, your children won't have to fight tomorrow. What you cast out now, they won't have to discern later. What you seal in prayer, in salt, in oil, they will walk in as normal. They will not grow up thinking torment is natural. They will not carry the weight of unspoken tension in their spirit. They will not inherit your spiritual fatigue. They will inherit your fortress. And the visitors who step through your threshold will feel the difference. They won't have language for it, but they'll breathe easier. They'll feel their anxiety loosen, their mind quiet, their shoulders drop. Why? Because this isn't just a house. This is an altar. This isn't just a kitchen. It's a table of covenant. This isn't just a hallway. It's a pathway of peace. This isn't just a bedroom. It's a chamber guarded by angelic presence. Pope Leo XIV warned what happens when homes go unguarded. He said, "A house without the mark of blessing will become a resting place for what was never meant to rest." He saw it, that when the sacred is neglected, the demonic sees invitation, and slowly, without fanfare, homes that once rang with worship become spiritually dormant, not tormented, just dull, not attacked, just asleep, no longer alive with revelation, just maintaining a shell of order, no active warfare, no active worship, just passive atmosphere where the enemy doesn't need to war because he's already made peace with the silence. But that's not your story, not if you act, not if you obey, not if you take the warning and respond with faith. The salt you lay is not just for today, it's for tomorrow's freedom. Your act of consecration might feel small, but it's louder in the spirit than you'll ever hear. When you place salt at your threshold, heaven sees it as a border, hell sees it as a barrier. And your children, they will walk in the fruit of your courage. They'll sleep through the night because you prayed. They'll speak truth without fear because you cast fear out. They'll laugh freely because you silenced every familiar spirit that once echoed through your walls. This is how legacy begins, not with big moments, but with sacred obedience. Not with crowds, but with quiet conviction. Not in cathedrals, but in kitchens and corridors and closets anointed by unseen hands. So hear me. You're not just preserving your peace. You are preparing generational freedom. You are not too late. You are right on time, because the future is not formed by random chance. It's forged in consecrated homes. Subscribe now, if even a part of you longs to leave peace as your inheritance. Don't let hesitation rob your grandchildren of what you were anointed to build. But if you're still unsure, then be honest. Comment and confess it. I don't believe my home shapes legacy. Say it plainly, if you must. But know this: heaven is watching what you build, or what you allow to remain barren. Let's move from vision to action. Because what good is revelation without response? You've seen the traps, you've felt the atmosphere, you've been stirred by the weight of legacy. But now, it's time to consecrate. Salt is not superstition. It is symbol and sword. Pope Leo XIV called it the covenant crystal, silent in the natural, thunderous in the spirit. So, listen closely. There are 10 places in your home that must be marked. Not all at once, not in panic, but with reverence, intention, and prayer. 1. The front door, threshold. This is where every influence, person, and spirit must cross. What you allow to step in stays. Sprinkle salt along the bottom threshold and speak aloud. No spirit that exalts itself against the knowledge of God may enter here. This home is sealed by the covenant of Christ. The threshold is a verdict. It is the first gate of defense. Don't leave it undefended. 2. Every windowsill. Windows are eyes, and in the spirit they are sensors. They allow things to pass both in and out. Salt on a windowsill says, I will see clearly. Nothing hidden, nothing sneaky, nothing cloaked in beauty shall find access here. As you lay it down, pray, purify what I see and what sees into me. Let no voyeur spirit linger. Let my home reflect only your light. 3. Under the pillow. Where you lay your head, you lay your guard. Your dreams, your rest, your subconscious. These are spiritual battlegrounds. The enemy loves to plant seeds while you sleep. But salt under your pillow says, this mind is not open territory. This sleep is not a playground for darkness. Pray this: even in unconsciousness I remain guarded. I give you my sleep, Lord. Seal it with peace. 4. Inside the pantry. Where there is food, there is faithfulness. God's provision must be protected from fear, lack, and waste. Salt in the pantry declares, this house lacks nothing, this home will never know famine. As you place it, pray, bless our storehouse, multiply our resources. We break every generational curse of poverty and we step into sustained abundance. Pope Leo XIV once wrote, the spirit of lack disguises itself in clutter and forgetfulness. Keep your pantry ordered, prayed over, and marked. 5. Beneath the doormat. Where your foot first touches, that is claiming ground. Salt under the mat declares ownership, not just of the house, but of the spiritual charge over it. Pray as you press it in. Every foot that steps here will encounter divine presence. This territory is not neutral, it is governed. You're not just welcoming guests, you are confronting spirits. This corners of the living room. The living room is where the family breathes, where conversation happens, tension rises, laughter or arguments echo. And the corners, that's where things hide. Salt in the corners says, no idle word, no lurking spirit of strife will remain unnoticed. Pray this: make this space one of unity and light. Expose what hides, uproot what festers. Let your spirit saturate the air we share. Pope Leo XIV warned that demonic agreements are often forged not in rituals, but in casual conversations left unguarded. 7. Entrance to the bathroom. It may feel odd, but understand, water is both cleansing and draining. The bathroom is where impurity exits, but also where spiritual vulnerability lingers. Salt at the door says, what leaves stays gone, what enters must be clean. Pray, Let no impurity circle back. Let no residue of bondage remain. Even in the hidden places, may holiness reign. 8. Inside your wallet or purse. Where your treasure is, your heart follows, and the enemy loves to attach scarcity, fear, and greed to where you store your provision. Salt in your wallet declares, "My resources are not mine, they are kingdom tools." Pray this over your finances. I'm not ruled by lack or excess. I'm a steward, not a slave. My money carries blessing, not burden. This is warfare on not budgeting. Prosperity begins in spiritual agreement. 9. Under your child's crib or bed. Your children are not too young to be targets, and they are not too young to be protected. Salt beneath their resting place is more than care, it is covering. It says, "Here lies innocence, and innocence shall be guarded like treasure." Pray. No nightmare shall speak to them. No fear shall rest near them. Their minds are sealed, their spirits secured, their dreams washed in light. Let them grow up not knowing the battles you fought, because they never had to feel them. 10. Your prayer corner or altar space. This is where fire falls. Salt here doesn't protect, it amplifies. It doesn't warn spirits, it welcomes glory. Sprinkle it around your prayer space and declare, "This is where I meet you. This is where I war. This is where answers come and declarations rise." Pope Leo XIV called it the furnace floor, the space where heaven bends low. Treat it with reverence, keep it clean, mark it as holy ground. This is your house, this is your charge, and these are your tools. Salt is not superstition. It is sacred participation in divine authority, so don't just watch this and scroll away. Act. Move through your house with intention. Speak out loud. Pray with conviction. Subscribe now, not because you're afraid, but because you refuse to be passive one more day. Still think your house is already safe? Then comment and say it. "I don't believe my home shapes legacy." But say it with honesty, because heaven already knows what you've allowed to remain. There was a woman, alone in her late 50s. She'd lived in that house for over 20 years, a small home, nothing extravagant, but she told herself what most people do. It's peaceful. It's just old air, creaking pipes, settled shadows. But one day, she couldn't sleep. Again. Not because of sound, but presence. Like something breathing just beyond the wall. She found herself up at 2:30 a.m., pacing, praying, her Bible open, her spirit unsettled. She stumbled across a teaching, not unlike this one, about salt, spiritual order, consecrating thresholds. She didn't laugh. She didn't dismiss. She listened. She obeyed. She didn't shout. She didn't anoint every corner with oil. She walked the home in silence, salt in hand, whispering, "Bring into order what I never realized was out of alignment." That night she slept, not just silence, but peace. And the dreams that followed were clean, vivid, and direct. She saw her late grandmother praying over that same home, a memory she hadn't thought of in decades. God wasn't just cleaning the air, He was restoring the foundation. But not every story ends that way. Another man, younger, proud of his faith, proud of his knowledge, he heard the same warning, felt the same nudge, but he scoffed. God doesn't work through objects, that's superstition. He was right, and he was wrong. God doesn't need salt, but you do. Because sometimes the obedience isn't about the item, it's about the humility to act when the Spirit speaks. Within 3 months, that man confessed. His son began waking up screaming. His wife started sensing a weight in the home. Arguments multiplied for no reason. And that same pride that made him ignore the warning, it became the wedge that kept him from seeking help. He finally did. But not before chaos carved a space. In the archives of the early Desert Fathers, those who lived in the wilderness to fight spiritual decay, they wrote of threshold rituals, prayers before entering their cells, markings around their sleeping mats. One of them, Abba Philo, wrote, "Where salt is thrown, the serpent recoils. for salt carries the memory of covenant, and spirits flee from remembered altars. This isn't new, it's just forgotten. There's a story from Ethiopia's highland churches, a mother who brought her infant to a secluded chapel. He hadn't stopped crying in 2 weeks. An elder took only salt, placed it in the 4 corners of her hut, and declared, "The air shall now breathe holiness." The child slept that night, and the home changed. Testimonies are not just stories, they are road signs. They show us what happens when people listen. But so do the warnings. In 1932, a bishop in southern Italy wrote about homes that were functionally Christian but spiritually neutral. He said, "They hang crosses, but never bless. They speak Jesus, but never consecrate. And in that neutrality, shadows dance unchallenged." Neutrality is not safety. It is surrender by silence. I once visited a couple, faithful, kind, generous, but their home felt heavy. You could feel it like a film over the walls. The wife said, "We've prayed, we've sung, we've fasted," but she had never claimed authority over the space. They removed a decorative mask, gifted from an overseas friend, and beneath it they found carved inscriptions. They had no idea. And they'd welcomed it years ago. Salt was placed at every entry point. Every object was reconsidered. They repented, not out of fear, but responsibility. By the end of that weekend, they told me, "We didn't just clean the house, we reclaimed it." So now, you must decide. You've heard the teaching. You've seen the testimonies. You've felt the unease, the conviction, the stirring. Will you sit with it again and wait, or will you act? This is a mirror moment. You don't need a voice from heaven. You've heard enough. You don't need another sign. This is one. Subscribe if it's time to face what you've ignored, and if you still won't, then say it out loud. I don't believe my home shapes legacy. But be honest, because heaven is listening, and so is your house. You are not fading, you are becoming flame. This, right now, is not the flicker of your final moments. This is ignition. This is the sound of heaven drawing the line. This is the moment the war within your walls becomes war for your walls. Because salt is not superstition. Salt is not ceremony. Salt is declaration. It is a cry in the spirit that says, no more confusion, no more contamination, no more compromise. Your home is not a storage unit for spiritual junk. It is an altar, and every altar must be cleared, cleansed, consecrated. So now, declare it. Don't think it. Don't whisper it. Say it with your chest, with your breath, with your soul. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. Say it again. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. Say it until your walls remember, until the air rearranges, until every hidden thing that has overstayed its welcome begins to tremble. You are not just protecting rooms, you are preserving legacy. You are not just guarding a house, you are governing a domain. Because you are not small, you are not late, you are not weak, you are a gatekeeper, a repairer of the breach, a watchman on the walls. You have permission to stand, to say no, to cast out, to cleanse, to correct. This is not performance, this is war. And your war cry is holiness. Walk every room and speak it aloud. Unseen I see you, unnamed I name you, unclean you cannot stay. Open your mouth. Because silence is not peace. Silence is permission. And heaven never called you to be passive. He called you to be present, fully, boldly, loudly. So rise, salt in your hand, fire in your lungs, scripture in your mouth. Let your yes be thunder. Let your no shake hell. Let your prayers punch holes in every ceiling that's ever tried to cage your authority. You are not fading, you are becoming flame. And now the moment has come to act, to move, to decide. If you watch this far and still won't subscribe, ask yourself, what is whispering hesitation into your ear? What spirit is convincing you to stay still when God is telling you to rise? This isn't just content. This is commission. Subscribe and declare war with us. or comment below and confess why passivity still feels safer than power. Because by now you know the truth. Either you walk in fire or you sit in fear. Choose.